welcome to Help My Daughter Loves Horses. I'm Allie, this is Noah, and we're here to help you enjoy horses in a fun, safe way. So today, I'm going to show you how to tack up a horse. And what tack up means is how to put all of the different pieces of equipment needed for riding properly on a horse. So first off, you want to start by grooming a horse. So I've already groomed Noah. I did a podcast about grooming, but you want to make sure your horse is clean before you put any tack on him. So once your horse is clean, you start with the saddle blanket. So this is just a simple square saddle pad, right? And you place that on the horse, and now it's important to your horse stand for this. And when I say stand, that means he's not walking wildly all around and running into you, making it generally difficult to put his tack on. So you'll notice I've put his saddle blanket pretty high up on his withers. And that's because once I put the saddle on, I'm going to slide it backwards to make sure that all of his fur is flat and pointing the proper way. So this is my dressage saddle, newly cleaned. And you'll notice that my stirrups are run up. I don't want them dangling around because when I try to put the saddle on, they might whack Noah and he won't appreciate that very much. So I take the saddle, I lift it up, and I place it down on his back. I want to make sure that the saddle flaps aren't tucked up, caught anywhere. I want to make sure that they're flat and that it's seated evenly on his pad. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the pad and I'm going to just settle that down on Noah's back. Now when you do this enough, you'll realize that there's a point at which the saddle kind of sticks. It slides down and then kind of stops, and that's where a saddle should be. You don't want it too high, because I push too much pressure on his withers, and you don't want it too far back, which is very hard for me to get it that far back, but that would put too much pressure on the unprotected part of Noah's spine. So again, we pick it up, and we settle it in nice and even. You want to straighten out your blanket, making sure there's no wrinkles, because wrinkles cause pressure, and pressure hurts the horse. So we've smoothed that out. I'm going to walk around the other side. I'm going to check that the other side of his saddle is all right. So it's looking good. And the last thing I want to check is that there's a little room underneath the pad. If this pad is stretched flat across his withers, again, that generates pressure on his withers, and that's not very comfortable. So we've checked that. Now, the next thing is to put your girth on, because your girth, this, is what holds your saddle in place. Now, girths oftentimes have one elastic end and one non-elastic end. And for this girth, because you can't see it, you just have to know which end's which. But you'll see the elastic side I can pull on. It's got give. The non-elastic side, I can pull as hard as I want, and there's no give. You want to put the non-elastic side on your horse first. And you want to put the non-elastic side on the right side of your horse. And this is because you mount a horse, you get on a horse from the left side. And the last thing you want to do before you get on is check your girth. And it's much easier to tighten a girth from the elastic side than the non-elastic side. So I'm going to go around Noah and I'm going to put on the non-elastic side onto his right side of his saddle. So again, hand on butt, walking around him. You'll see here, Noah has, these are called billet straps. These are what the girth attaches to. So I'm going to ask Noah to step over a little bit. Good boy. I'm going to open it up, and I'm going to put the left strap through the left buckle. I'm going to put the right strap through the right buckle. And now I'm not putting these on as tight as they'll go, because I still need to attach the other side. So I've got girth attached on this side. I'm going to go back around, I'm going to put the other side on, and then I'm going to come back to this side and tighten it as much as I can. So, good boy, good boy. So I reach under the horse without putting my body under the horse. See, all you see under the horse is my hand, just my hand. Reach under, grab the girth. I put one side in, put the other side in. Some horses are what's called girthy. And they don't like their girths tightened, or cinched is another word for tightening a girth. So you can see I've only put it up a couple holes, it's still very loose. And so now you can see over here, I'm going to go to the other side, tighten the other side. And for horses that are girthy, and don't like to have their girth tightened, it's a very good idea to tighten the girth slowly. So as you're putting the girth on, you might only tighten it one hole at a time, then you might do something else. Come back, tighten it another hole. Go away, do something else, and so on until the girth is tight. Now, you might wonder, how do you know if a girth is tight? So what you do after you've gotten it tight is you see if you can put your hand in and pull it off. So his girth is still a little loose, because look, I can put my whole hand under his girth and pull it off. It's snug if you can get one or two fingers in, but nothing more. So I'm gonna have to tighten this girth a little bit more. Now the other thing is, if you've got a girth that's very hard to tighten, sometimes you need a little bit more force. So what I like to do is, if you take the billet strap and you put it over your thumb and you kind of drop down, you can actually use your legs and push, and that gives you much more strength to get a girth tight. Now you want to make sure you don't tighten a girth too much, because that's going to be very uncomfortable for the horse. You just want to make it so, see, now I can get a couple fingers under, but I can't pull it off him. That's what I like. If you can't even get a finger under there, your girth is probably too tight. So, got a saddle on, right? So now the next thing I like to do is, before I put my bridle on, I will actually put my helmet on. And this is because once I've got the bridle on, Noah's no longer going to be tied up, and I'm going to be ready to go. And so you want to just get yourself ready before you put a bridle on. So, I'm going to put my helmet on. Make sure it's all tightened properly. See, I've got my chin strap. It's not too loose, can't come over my chin. The other thing is that my helmet is tight enough around my head, because if I move my helmet, I can't actually slide it off. It moves my skin with the helmet. So, now we have to do the bridle. Now, the first rule whenever you do anything with a horse's head, which I proved earlier, is that you want to make sure you don't lose control of your horse. So you always want to have something on him that will allow you to tell him what to do or ask him what to do. So before I take his halter off, I'm actually going to reach around, take the reins of my bridle, and I'm going to put them over his head. And this way, even when I take his halter off, I've still got the reins around him. So I'm going to undo the halter, and I'm actually going to put that around his neck too, just as a security. So now he's not only attached to me, but he's still attached to where I tied him. So, similar to the way that you put a halter on a horse, you're going to stand to the left side of the horse, you're going to reach your right hand underneath the horse, and you're going to just place it on his nose. And this allows you to kind of move his head around where you might need it to be. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bridle, and I'm going to place that bridle in my right hand. I'm going to pick up the noseband, and I'm going to place that in my right hand as well. And the reason for this is the first thing you do, putting a bridle on, is you put the bit, in the horse's mouth. Now, Noah is very good about taking a bit. Some horses are much worse about it. But you take the bit, and you act like you're going to feed it to the horse like a treat. So I just feed it to him, and look how good he takes it. He just takes it up into his mouth. Some horses won't do this that nicely. They won't open their mouth for the bit. And you might have to take your finger, and you see that gap where his teeth there are no teeth, it's just gum. If you push your thumb there, it asks a horse to open his mouth, and a horse will open his mouth for you. Now that the bit is in his mouth, I take the right ear, and I put the right ear so that the crown piece goes behind the ear. I take the left ear, do the same thing. You notice I didn't squish his ears, I just kind of pushed them forward so they fit under. Now, the next thing is you want to sort out his cavison, or noseband. So take cavison, make sure that it's underneath the cheek piece. See, a lot of people want to do this. That's incorrect. You never want anything outside the bit. You want everything underneath it. So I'm going to sort all of this out, make sure it's nice and straight. Make sure all of your keepers, these little leather bands that hold the extra leather in, make sure that those are in place. I'm going to take the other side again. I'm going to put that underneath the bit. Now I want to check, is it even? Is it skewed? You know, is one side higher than the other, or is it nice and even across his nose? So that looks pretty good. Got a nice even thing. The next thing I'm going to do is the throat latch. And if you remembered, this area of the horse right here is called the throat latch. And this is also called the throat latch. So it reaches underneath the horse's throat latch. I put the buckle in, and you want it to have about 4 fingers between the strap and the bottom of your horse's chin. Oh, I buckle that, put it through its keepers. And the last thing I have to do is actually buckle the noseband. So same as the throat latch, you put strap through. You want about 1 to 2 fingers, okay? Too much, if you can fit too many more fingers than that, it's too loose. If you can't fit those fingers in, it's too tight, and it's gonna put too much pressure on your horse. So, now we wanna just check, is everything straight? Is everything even? Pull his little forelock out, make sure everything's good. If you want, before you let him go, you can do a final check on your girth. And you're gonna undo your halter while keeping hold of your reins. Now when you walk a horse, you always take the reins off his head, put the extra rein in your left hand, and your right hand is the one that asks your horse where to go. So, that's everything to go, and now we're off to ride.
Thanks for watching this video. Help My Daughter Loves Horses. Check out our website for more.